Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Welcome, everybody. This is the Jazz Flyte Podcast. 5 days out of the week, I'm Darrell Scott. I have other aliases, but we won't talk about that right now. We're going to talk to a man today who currently is one of the most successful forces in contemporary jazz. His name is Nils. Nils, first of all, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Oh, thanks for having me there. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Not a problem. Now, I want to get a little background information. So you were born in Munich, is that correct?
I grew up in Munich.
You grew up in Munich?
I was born in Duisburg, actually. It's also, but I was born in Germany. I was born and raised over there.
Okay.
I came here in the 80s.
So when you were growing up, were you listening to jazz from here, or does Munich have what's its own style of music? So what were you listening to?
Like the radio situation over in Germany when I grew up was very different than what you might be used to right now.
Mm-hmm.
We had 3 stations. One was only music, what you hear in a beer tent. The other one was only classical, and the third one was German Schlager, which is a obnoxious version of pop music, really low quality, cheesy stuff. And then once in a week we had like maybe a top 40 station. We had the American Top 40 with Casey Kasem that I got in FM, American Forces Network. So my learning about music was done through going to record stores and listening to albums, through looking at the album credits was playing on that record, and then checking out other records where these guys are playing on, and sharing this information with my friends.
Then how did you decide to play an instrument? I mean, was it based upon what you were listening to and you just picked a favorite?
Yeah. I mean, we listened to music. I mean, there was a lot of British music was a little bit more easily accessible. So my first influences was kind of like rock music, listening to Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Ritchie Blackmore was my first guitar hero, AC/DC, that kind of stuff. And then
so how I'm trying to figure out how we get from Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. Don't get me wrong, Cashmere and Trampled Underfoot are 2 of my all-time favorite songs. But how do you go from that and get to contemporary jazz?
I'll tell you. I was maybe 17 or 16 when the first time I heard the funk tune. It was I heard VSOP by Herbie Hancock from the live album.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And what is this? This is amazing. And still, I did not know there was a whole plethora of music around that kind of thing. Well, no, but then years later, there was a band that broke up, and the drummer asked me, "Hey, Nils, you want to join a funk band?" And I said, "What is funk?" And he brought me over to my to the Space Player house, and he had like a record collection, like 3-4 yards down on his floor, and from Ohio Players to Clinton to Earth, Wind and Fire, Commodores, you name it. The first thing he put on for me was Getaway by Earth, Wind and Fire. I remember that, and I just lost my mind. I said, "Man, I loved." There's like a kid, you locked me in a candy store. I did not know this existed, and I loved every single note. So it's weird. It's like it resonated with me, and I don't know where it comes from and why. It just did, So I just ate it up. We were still having cassette players back then. So I bought a whole bunch of blank cassettes and I was copying as much as I could, studying all these Al McKay licks and Paul Jackson Jr. guitar riffs and just got into it and started so we started this funk band. We had a black singer who couldn't sing her way out of a paperback, but she was black. That gave us a little bit of credibility, at least we
Right,
thought,
right.
you know and so I got totally lost in that, not lost, but immersed in that music, and I just was listening to nothing else. And then I had another great experience listening. We got into fusion. It was called
Hmm.
fusion. Early
Right.
Jeff Lorber fusion, early Yellow Jackets. And my very first jazz concert was Steps Ahead in a small club in Munich.
Ooh.
And that blew my mind. The way Michael Brecker took off and kept increasing the intensity where you think, oh, this is an absolute climax, and then the whole band modulated and it just pushed it up another level. It was just like I got flashes, and listening to it, it was so intense. The dynamics and the intensity of that music was really, it took me by heart. So then combining all these influences, that ended up in what's today smooth jazz. You know, I had like bluesy guitar influences back from my rock days. My favorite guitar player still is Steve Lukather and Larry Carlton. You
Hmm.
know, so I listened to a lot of Larry Carlton. I mean Hey 19.
Yeah.
Bam, down. That
Right.
first note, I had to listen to it like 100 times till the record actually had a scratch, and I had to buy it again because it was so fascinating. What a perfect bend and the feeling he had in these notes. And so anyway, putting all these things together, I was then when I came to America, I was really on a what I would call more like a fusion trip,
Hmm.
following guys like Frank Gambale, Chick Corea, Scott Henderson, those guitar players who played jazz with like a rock sound because
Hmm.
that's what I was used to. And then when I started doing records, I got mellowed out and learned how to deal with a different guitar tone and was therefore more adapt to also to include my funk influences into the whole thing.
You,
So, and then putting it all together, that's what we're at today.
is there, and I know this is probably tough to do, is there a song of yours that we can find that has these influences? If you said, Daryl, go listen to this, you're going to
Mhm.
hear the rock influences. Can you think of a
Yeah.
title of a song that you did that
Yeah,
we can see all that?
we certainly can. Um, uh, a Blue Planet, the title track from my very first record,
Hmm.
would have some more fusionistic with a rock lead tone sound. The record is only available on my website because it's out of print. But if you go to nilsmusic.com, you can listen to it. You can download it, and you can actually on the website listen to the sound of it.
And it's called Blue Planet, right?
Blue Planet, yeah, that was my very first album. Came out in '98, and it was before Pacific Coast Highway,
Hmm.
that which changed my career. But there will be one like that.
How does this time frame you said in the mid 90s, and now you talked about
Uh-huh.
it being different? What has changed in you that has changed your music?
Um, well, understanding the demand of what the audience likes. Like as I said, I was more in this fusion high tech sound that I thought I wanted to pursue, but it's not necessarily like a broad audience appeal. It's great
Hmm.
for our students who love that, and get impressed by the sound and by the speed of your picking or whatever. But the regular people, they just want to have a good time and listen
Right.
to. So I learned that, and that certainly changed. And when I write music today, I write I write more like what is stuff that I would like to listen to in a certain mood when I want to relax, when I want to drive down the street, the beach, or hang out with my friends and have a barbecue. What would I like to hear? So that's more my frame of mind now when I write music, and which was certainly not the case in the 90s.
So you mentioned if playing music at a barbecue. So, and I just thought of this. So, are you the music director at every outdoor event like that, whether it's a barbecue or a birthday party or something like that? Do they go, well, since you're coming, can you bring some music along so we can have something to listen to? Is that part of your role?
No, not I wouldn't say so. Um, I must admit, since COVID, we didn't really have a lot of barbecues, and I hope that will
Right.
change. But if I go to somebody else's barbecue, I let them handle the music. I don't want that responsibility. My own parties here at the house, yeah, I might put a playlist together, and I have to clear that with my wife, who has a different taste in music. So we got to duke that out and make sure that there's something for everybody to like.
That is making a playlist for your home is always a bit difficult. Uh, I,
Yes.
I get that. Let's take a break and let's take a listen to, uh, as a matter of fact, you've already mentioned, let's take a listen to Pacific Coast Highway on the Jazz Flight Podcast
Okay.
with our special guest, Nils. This is the Jazz Flight Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. He is Nils. We just heard Pacific Coast Highway. Nils, I'm always interested in. Back in the day, it seemed that musicians only did musician stuff. They only recorded music, and I'll call them projects because I don't know whether to call them CDs, albums, 8 tracks, or whatever. So they did projects. But now it seems as though every musician has a side hustle. You're an educator. You teach guitar lessons.
I do, yes.
Think back to when you first started. What is different about teaching these youngsters now compared to what you now do? Is there a different technique? Do you try different things? I know the guitar has expanded. What's your story?
Well, as an educator, I mean, I don't teach that much anymore. Guitar specific, there's a certain, it kind of depends on the development on the student, you know. And I always try to instill to keep the joy in playing. So I'm not having expectations that he needs to learn, or he or she needs to learn scales or certain things. Not at all. I just try to figure out what instills joy in them to play the instrument. Because for me, it all comes from there. When they have fun doing it, they were going to sit down and practice. You don't need to make them force them and saying you need to practice 3 hours a day. So show them stuff that they would enjoy playing. But I also teach about use how to use a Logic, how to do. I have certain series out on my YouTube channel, how to use Logic for live. Some Logic Tricks, which is the platform that I use to produce music, Logic
Hmm.
Pro, the Apple app. So I have that in basically a YouTube series downloadable or watchable on the channel. And sometimes I have people texting me and asking me direct questions about that, and I'll answer that. And then the third thing is about artists, that somebody who's serious about music doesn't want to do it for a hobby. I try to educate them that becoming an artist these days much more is required, as far as having a business sense, as far as having a plan, being more hands-on in all aspects that are not necessarily music, social media distribution, creating a fan base, a following on social media, um, how to be business savvy. as far as where royalties are, how to collect, and how to do all these things, even by putting out records, which these days, what is changing, that a lot of artists starting to do this themselves rather than with a record label. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the production costs are lower than what they used to be, significantly lower. Um, and I'll try to instill on them that still you should try to apply the highest standards of your production. Just because you can make it cheap on a laptop doesn't mean it should sound cheap, you know. So there's still a lot of skill involved to make it sound good, which will help the longevity of a project.
So this whole thing, and I am honest about this. I'm not the biggest fan of, you're where you are, somebody's in New York, somebody's in LA, and you send the
Mhm.
tracks in and you play it to that. I was spoiled when I was in radio, and I sat in on a couple of production sessions where you as a guitarist could see the drummer and kind of get a
Mhm.
feeling from him, and that would inspire your playing, or you could say, I want to do this
Right,
part over again, and that sort of stuff. So it's interesting, but you must increase not only your guitar playing, but you have to increase your computer skills, which means you got
right.
to buy the right stuff, you got to get the right stuff. So
You
you're
gotta learn how
learning
to use the
more,
software. Hmm.
right? You're learning more overall as opposed to just playing. Is that a true
Right.
statement?
Or yes, you have, or if that's not your bag, you have to know when to hire like somebody like me as a producer.
Right.
I have artists that are, they might be great writers, but they have no technical sense. They don't know how to place a microphone and do all that recording stuff. So I can help them as a producer to get the recording sounding at a competitive level, because that's what it's all about. If you want to make money with this, the only way to make money right now is on the radio and going out and doing live shows. So if you want to record music, that's for going for the radio. You gotta be the music gotta be sounding a certain level that's competing with the others that are out there. You gotta have a good song, first of all, because if you don't have a good song, the greatest production is not going to help you either. So a good song and a good production and you're in the game doesn't mean you succeed. It's still a crapshoot. There's still luck involved. There's still persistence involved, but at least you are in the game, you know,
I,
and then
I,
you keep pushing.
I thoroughly appreciate your honesty. Now let's talk about this production thing. How did you get into producing other folks' music? Why did you decide to do that?
Um, After um, my first success with Pacific Coast Highway was quite enormous change in my life. I mean, all of a sudden I'm making really good money, was touring nationally, and then the whole thing fell apart. I blame broadcast architecture for but but uh, a lot of the radio stations about 2011 um, changed format. Festivals cut down from 2 days to one day. You know, all of a sudden the work was gone, and I lost my agent, and I was stuck basically all of a sudden. Oh, no work and no income. So I got to find another way to make money. I always was quite confident in my writing, so I started, contacting other peers of mine if they needed songs, and started writing. And then I found, through the fact that Pacific Coast Highway is the most played song on smooth jazz radio since the year 2000.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of people who approached me because I wrote and produced that song, and that's how I found my first clients. Basically out of necessity, I got to expand. I got to be able to have a different leg to stand on. If I don't have a hit on the radio right now, and I'm not out on the road, I need another leg. I need some other work coming in because, I'm a self-employed musician. I don't have a 401k or anything like that. I,
Hmm.
I need to have something coming in. And need to have some work lined up. And if I see how much the radio goes up and down, you have a hit single, you make a lot of money, and it goes away, and then the money is gone. If you don't have gigs, if you have a tour lined up with several gigs, money is coming in, but all of a sudden you might have like 3, 4 months no really significant gig, and it looks very dire. So a third leg to stand on would be, producing and writing music for other artists. That gives me a certain security as far as always having some iron in the fire where I can make some money and sustain my living.
Yeah. Once again, appreciate the honesty. Just love that. If you had to say right now, other than
Mm.
Pacific Coast Highway, what is the biggest song that you have produced?
Um,
Or just name some of the songs that you have produced.
well, Jumpstart was Song of the Year 2011. It actually was 11 weeks #1 on Billboard, longer than Pacific Coast Highway, where we only had half the radio stations, so it never
Mm-hmm.
had good airplay. Um, the Earth, Wind, Fire song, my version of That's the Way of the World, was Song of the Year 2024, was the most played song that year. Did really well. The current single it's on the way to become successful. I don't want to jinx it, but we got all the radio stations within a week, which is unusual. And it's Joy and Pain, my version of Frankie Beverly's Joy and Pain. And my new album's coming out next month in June. It's on Chill It. And so I'm hopeful that there will be another big one. But and then I had several. I mean, Catnap was always one of the songs. It's from my second or my third album. That it's been a constant. If I look at my streaming downloads, the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
that song always been in there, consistently. There's certain songs that are always bring revenue and people seem to like it and download it and stream it and stuff.
Okay, let's take one of those songs that you mentioned, which is one of my all-time favorite songs. It's That's the Way of the World, originally by Earth, Wind, and Fire, but we're going to listen to
Yeah.
your version here on the
It
Jazz Flight
took me a
Podcast.
long it took me a long time to dare to do Earth, Wind, and Fire song, because to me, Earth, Wind, and Fire it's just perfection. And what how would you do a cover without it being less than the original?
Right.
So you got to be at least as interesting or as good as the original, and that's a high bar.
Okay.
So, but I think we did it with that version here.
Yes, it's very good. Let's give people an opportunity to listen to some of it. This is That's the Way of the World by by Nils, the Earth, Wind, and Fire version on the Jazz Flight Podcast. That's the Way of the World by Nils on the Jazz Flight Podcast. I'm Darrell Scott. He's Nils. We just heard That's the Way of the World. That is correct. Here's a question I have. What is your process to pick a cover song? When you say, like you chose Earth,
Mhm.
Wind, and Fire's That's the Way of the World, I think you do Joy and Pain,
Mhm.
and there's a few others. How do you pick that particular song that you decide to do? Because the original folks are going to go, well, I don't, well, okay, it's great. But that's tough because it's not only do you have the audience of who you're playing to, but you also have the audience of the original group that did the song.
Right. So it's a fine line between doing it justice, and making it your own. I always I don't do a karaoke version of that song, take the
Hmm.
vocals off and put my guitar on it. That to me is a boring, uninspired approach. I gotta find something new. I did a version of Georgie Porgy, for instance, that has a really funky intro, very different than what the original is. And then go into that song. And so you gotta have your own unique approach to the songs that makes it unique. Oh yeah, this is that version, you know. And but it gotta be, as I said, it has to measure up to the standards of what the original song was. If it's a song that wasn't, highly produced, it's a little easier than, as I said, with the Earth, Wind and Fire song, which I consider a killer production that is really hard to improve upon. Um, it is tough. You got to get your version got to be up there, not being the same, but being on the same level with that. And that's the challenge. So I don't do a lot of covers. For one, I am a writer, so
Hmm.
I don't have to write music. And for B, I only do a cover when I have an idea. I say, oh, I can do something with this. I
No.
don't do a cover just because I want to do a cover. I need to have a plan and an idea. With the Earth and Fire song, I was sitting in a basement in Munich with an old school friend of mine, and he brought up YouTube live videos, and we jammed. He's a guitar player I used to play with when we were younger, and we jammed to the tune. He brought that live version of Earth and Fire up and we jammed along with this and said, man, this feels good. I have an idea. I think this will speak good on the guitar. I
Hmm.
can do this. And that's how got the idea of doing that song.
Do did any member of Earth, Wind and Fire or Frankie Beverly and Maze or Toto call you on the songs that you cover and go, did a good job or thanks or anything like that?
I should call up Larry and ask him. I have not specific. No, I know. I mean, Larry Dunn worked with me on a few records. So I should ask him. I'll see what he thought about it.
Always
Um,
me always trying to be an inspiration.
yeah,
Get
yeah,
anything to do.
but he probably wanted me to do Shining Star because he wrote that.
If you're gonna do a cover song, do one that I wrote.
Yeah.
Um, so what are you currently working on? What's on your plate that you're doing
Well,
right
I
now?
just finished my 14th album,
Man.
Chill It. So right now I'm working on uh the release, updating the website. I mean, I just put up the pre-orders page on my website. People can actually download the album before it comes out and maybe pre-order a CD, which will be available next month in June, as I said. I'm going to put jam tracks together. Jam tracks for me are like the backing tracks, and I'm sell them
Hmm.
on the website. So people want to play along with the song. No, it's a joke. They get cheap if they download the song with me. It's cheaper than without me. Um, uh, but people musicians like the backing tracks that I have, and they can use it in their show if they do a cover, either for studying purposes, so because I provide a lead sheet with it as well, and or for if they do parties and perform, and they can download these songs.
So
Um,
this technology has given you more opportunities to get your music out because you can do different things. You can do backing tracks. You can do whatever.
it's just a way of me thinking of different ways of marketing it. I just, I can do, since I'm mixing it at home, I can do a mix without my guitar, and I write out the notes. I have a couple guitar books out where I transcribe it note by note, or I just do it real book style lead sheet. And it's just one of the ways. I've got to work on music videos uh,
Hmm.
for the upcoming singles. Got to figure out what might singles be. And I did for Joy and Pain. We have a good live version that I recorded earlier this year, so that's up. And then for the next single, I got to come up with some new ideas. Um, on the last album, "You Keep Me Up," featured this guy here, Bear.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he played piano, he was played guitar and all kind of stuff. And that was before AI, so it was a big undertaking. And that video got tons of views on YouTube. So if you want to check it out at youtube.com/Nils Guitar is my handle there. And look for "You Keep Me Up." And it's hilarious because he actually cranks up the stereo in the middle of the night. And at the end, he steals my car and drives away with it.
Excuse me. He steals the car.
He steals the car, and I chase after him. Yeah,
That's a pretty talented dog.
yeah,
That's
it
all I
is.
gotta say. And I'm
Yeah.
not gonna mess with Bear. So we have many people who want to keep up with you, especially after some of the things that you have mentioned. Do you have a social media presence? Is there a website
Of
or?
course. Yeah. So my main artist website is Nils Music, Nils Music, one word. And you can find all my music there. There's a store, and on my store page, you can listen to most of the song before you decide if you want to download or
Hmm.
purchase and that kind of stuff. You can also see my tour calendar, see my videos. Then the other big presence will be my YouTube channel. That's Nils Guitar. It's the same as my Facebook handle, also Nils Guitar. YouTube and Facebook is Nils Guitar, Nils Guitar, one word. On Instagram, that handle was taken, so I'm back to Nils Music.
Okay. All right.
So between Nils Music and Nils Guitar, you can find me on all the platforms.
Jazz Flight will do its best. If you have new stuff out, please, get it over to us. We will post it on our social media. Make sure our fans get to see it. I greatly appreciate the time you've taken to talk to me. This has been
Oh,
interesting.
my
I,
pleasure.
I think one of the things that people, listeners,
Mm.
want to hear is just how things are done. And
Yeah,
I'm guessing that you're an independent artist. You don't have a record company behind you. Is that correct?
I do. Actually, I know I'm signed to a record label. Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Then how do
small
you?
mom and pop label, but they've been with me since Pacific Coast Highway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's always good. It's always good to try to determine whether you're independent or whether you have a record company. Because
Yeah, it's not like it was in the old days. It used to. My wife was married to a pop star, and they flew out to an island, and they could spend a week to get a snare sound in a studio. It was a different world back then. Now, the record budgets are almost non-existent, are very low.
right,
So you get some musicians paid. So you got to do a lot of stuff, know how to do it yourself, or hire somebody to do it. And then you got to prepare for promotion. I realized that my label is good at physical distribution. They're good at radio. They're not good at social media. So I had to take over that part and educate myself. At first, I did not like social media at all. I was not.
mm-hmm.
Why people need to know what I'm doing every minute of the day, you know. And but now I'm more embracing it as a tool for an artist to communicate with my fans and build a solid core of a fan base.
Nils, this is great. I have learned so much, and you've expanded my musical, and not just music, but from a business standpoint. I don't think anybody understands everything that you guys go through, and it's very much an individual thing. It's not
Yes.
necessarily what everybody wants, because I've done 145 of these shows, and I probably have 140 different ways on how to promote, to press. Some people have to buy their own CDs. It's the social media. It's the whole nine yards. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I will do whatever I can to help you guys out. So once again, thank you for the time. Have thoroughly enjoyed it. For everybody out there listening,
Thank
if
you, Darrell.
not a
You
problem.
take care, and my best to all your listeners, and hope you check me out and follow me on my
Oh, dude, we're
social
gonna follow.
media. Like,
We're gonna add you to the social media list. This show will be on probably in a couple of weeks. And Bear, don't take the car. Don't
yeah.
take the car. You can do an awful lot of things, but don't take the car. You've been listening to the Jazz Flight Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. If you have enjoyed this conversation and want to hear more, whether it be Gerald Albright, Jonathan Butler, there's a whole bunch of people that we've done. You can subscribe. Just wait till this show ends, and there'll be a button that you can subscribe to, and then you'll get everything that we have ever done. And then we'll keep you up to date on what Nils is doing. So once again, thank you, and we will talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flight Podcast. I hope you enjoy the stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.